Metal Gear Solid, released in 1998, was an iconic game, and in good company that year among other notable stealth titles. It's interesting to consider how well the gameplay itself works with the themes of the game. GoldenEye, released a year prior and also about a secret agent infiltrating locations with shooting mechanics for gameplay, serves as an excellent point of contrast, I think. Even just the perspective of the camera should make the intentions of the games clear. One is about accurate shooting, so it's first person, while the other is about avoiding enemies in the area and thus has a pulled back camera to be able to see your surroundings better. In both games, getting spotted can trigger an alert, but in GoldenEye it's not a very sure thing. Guards have to actually run and push a button, which they're not terribly interested in doing most of the time. But in Metal Gear Solid, the alert is instant. In later games, guards had to radio in the alert, but it was still relatively quick. If you have an enemy in front of you and looking at you in GoldenEye, it's not a very big deal. They respond slow, have terrible accuracy, and you have a lot of health. But in Metal Gear Solid, guards react fast and with excellent accuracy. Although they would go down with a few shots, so do you. In GoldenEye, any gun an enemy has will be yours as soon as you kill them along with a little ammo. But in Metal Gear Solid, you don't have that luxury. You can only get guns at specific points in the game, and you don't even start out with a gun. The game even goes out of its way to have writing to explain this.
Weapons and equipment OSP?
Yes, this is a top secret black op. Don't expect any official support.
Both ammo and guns are in short supply in Metal Gear Solid, particularly in the early stages of the game when you have a low reserve ammo count along with a short health bar, and shooting in the first-person view isn't possible. All of these things combined force you to start the game by avoiding enemies, and the rest of the game mechanics make this easier. The radar, along with the perspective, guard line of sight, and guard routes all make it very doable to get through areas quickly and without being seen. In GoldenEye, your mission clear screen makes a point of highlighting kills, numbers of shots, and accuracy to each body part in detail. By comparison, Metal Gear Solid's highest rank, Big Boss, specifically requires you to kill a relatively low number of people at most, just a few more than is absolutely necessary to clear the game. The reason it's still so high is because of forced encounters. Twin Snakes and later games in the series introduced tranquilizer weapons as well, bringing the mandatory kill count for the rank all the way down to 0, even with forced encounters. Ultimately, the game design has a clear message. Avoiding encounters is best, you're only a few shots away from being dead, and the best players kill the least number of people. And this really goes hand in hand with the anti-war message of the game. To this day, there still really isn't any game quite like Metal Gear Solid in this respect. In my opinion, how it addresses how difficult it is to kill a person still ranks among the best moments the medium has to offer.
You pause for just 1 second in front of your enemy and it's all over. Good luck doesn't last forever.
I don't know what happened. I just couldn't pull the trigger right away. I never had any problems in training, but when I thought about my bullets tearing through those soldiers' bodies, I hesitated.
Shooting at targets and shooting at living, breathing people are different.
Ever since I was a little girl, I always dreamed about being a soldier. Every day of my life, I've trained my mind and body for the one day when I could finally see some real action, and now...
So what now? You want to quit?
I can't quit. I can't allow myself to quit now.
Listen, Meryl. Everybody feels sick the first time they kill someone. Unfortunately, killing is one of those things that gets easier the more you do it. In a war, all of mankind's worst emotions, worst traits come out. It's easy to forget what a sin is in the middle of a battlefield.
And the game goes out of its way to say that there's no glory in war.
None of that gene therapy like there is today. You guys were real heroes.
There are no heroes in war. All the heroes I know are either dead or in prison, one or the other.
But Snake, you're a hero, aren't you?
I'm just a man who's good at what he does, killing. There's no winning or losing for a mercenary.
I can still help. I want to help you.
Quiet down, save your strength.
I was a fool. I wanted to be a soldier. But war is ugly. There's nothing glamorous about it. Snake, please save yourself.
For the deaths of the two bosses, Snake actually kills himself. The mood is somber.
You monster.
Let him talk. He doesn't have much time left.
Okay, hero. Set me free.
And then there's torture. In a game like Call of Duty, you torturing the enemy as a gameplay mechanic is par for the course. But as for Metal Gear Solid, in both this game and the series as a whole, you are tortured by the villains, and never the other way around, with the game mechanic for it emphasizing how hard it is to endure and stay alive. And you don't even know what they want to know.
Trick?
That weasel of a president said there's some kind of trick to using the key.
Hell if I know.
I see.
What do you hope to hear? You know he doesn't know anything.
The villains themselves even seem to comment on its purpose being more for satisfaction.
What about you? Wanna stay for the show?
We're short-handed, so make this little torture show of yours as short as possible.
Torture? This is an interrogation.
As you wish.
The game comments on its effects outside of just Snake and whether Marrow lives or not as well. Even though it turns out Ocelot killed the DARPA chief on purpose, he used torture to disguise the killing.
Ocelot, don't screw up like you did with the chief.
Yes, I know. That was an accident. I didn't think a pencil pusher like him would be so tough.
And Baker didn't get out of his torture unscathed either.
I never had any training on how to resist torture.
It looks like he had some fun with you, all right.
Oh, he's not human. I tell you, he loved every second of it.
What happened to your arm?
He broke it.
Baker mentions a few other things important to the themes of the game, one of them being nukes. He specifically brings up the concern of nuclear waste disposal.
I understand, but why Metal Gear? The nuclear age ended with the turn of the millennium.
Oh, you're wrong. The threat of nuclear war isn't gone. In fact, it's greater than it's ever been. The amount of spent nuclear fuel and plutonium is increasing even today. Listen, have you ever seen a warehouse full of nuclear material?
No.
Drums and drums of nuclear waste stacked this high, as far as you can see, because there's still no real way to dispose of the stuff.
So they just close the lid and try to pretend like it'll go away?
Essentially, yes. And they're not even doing a good job of storing it. Many of the drums are corroded, with nuclear waste seeping out of them.
Unbelievable.
Not only that, but several pounds of MUF are reported every year.
MUF?
It stands for material unaccounted for. It proves that there's a large and well-organized black market in nuclear materials.
The game reinforces how dangerous these nuclear materials are and how poorly they are handled later on through both dialogue and gameplay when you reach the nuclear warhead storage building.
Be careful. You absolutely must not use weapons in that area.
I've already programmed the nanomachine so that he won't be able to, Colonel.
What? What are you talking about?
Have you forgotten? That's where they keep the nuclear warheads. Can't you see them?
Yeah, there's lots of boxes piled up here, but are they all warheads?
Yes, they're all dismantled warheads.
They just leave them here? It's like President Baker said, totally careless.
They're working on a limited budget. They try to put on a pretty face for the media, but this is the grim reality of it. Nastasha knows lots more about it than I do.
All of the warheads in those boxes have had their detonation mechanisms removed, so there's no fear of them exploding. But if the warheads are broken, they might leak plutonium, and that would be a serious problem.
Otacon makes it a point to bring up his grandfather's involvement with the Manhattan Project and the effect it had on him.
My grandfather was part of the Manhattan Project. He suffered with the guilt for the rest of his life. And my father, he was born on August 6th, 1945.
The day of the Hiroshima bomb.
And an optional codec call with Nastasha, your nuclear weapons specialist, is also noteworthy for touching on the dangers of nuclear power.
As long as the strategy of nuclear deterrence continues, nuclear weapons may be reduced, but they will never be eliminated. If you think about it, nuclear reduction does not mean much without elimination as the ultimate goal. I used to work in the DIA. I figured the only way to achieve nuclear elimination was to work from the inside to convince them of the ineffectiveness of the deterrence theory.
Seems like you're pretty focused on that issue.
Victims of nuclear radiation are a sad thing to see, and I have seen a lot of it. I have seen more than enough of it. I was born and raised in Pripyat, Ukraine. I was 10 years old on that day, April 26, 1986.
You don't mean...
Yes, Chernobyl.
That is the day that changed my life and thousands of other lives. I live just 3 kilometers north of there. 600,000 to 700,000 people were evacuated. Over 650,000 children suffered the effects of radiation poisoning. Between 1986 and 1993, 12,000 children died. My parents and many others like them who helped in the cleanup died a few years later from radiation sickness. We must rid this world of all nuclear weapons before they cause more misery, before they destroy the delicate environment that keeps us alive. I will not allow this pain and anxiety to pass on to yet another generation.
As you can tell from the beginning of that conversation, Kojima really wants to argue against nuclear deterrence theory, and he largely set up the plot of the game to do that long before Peace Walker. As Baker alludes to, one of the reasons Metal Gear was developed was the military-industrial complex.
I agree, but what do they really want?
Oh, who knows? Maybe they're like us in the arms industry, always looking forward to the next good war. You know our industry suffered quite a blow as a result of the cuts in military budgets due to this so-called peace.
I remember hearing a lot about mergers and takeovers among the big weapons makers.
Yes, and after my company lost their bid to produce the Air Force's next line of fighter jet, the Metal Gear system was our last ace in the hole. That's why we pushed to have Metal Gear developed as a black project.
Black project?
Secret projects paid for by the Pentagon's black budget. You can avoid a lot of red tape and get a great lead time on your weapons production. And no one can bother you. Not even those bleeding heart liberals on the Military Oversight Committee.
Bribes.
I prefer to think of it as good business.
But I found Baker's ulterior motive.
He's just looking to get rich, isn't he?
Well, that's part of it. Armstech is in much worse financial trouble than I thought. And it looks like we were paying a lot of bribe money to the DARPA chief.
Bribe money, huh?
Yeah. And Baker was a big proponent of the nuclear deterrent theory.
Baker also specifically mentions that Metal Gear Rex was also a result of the policy of nuclear deterrence.
What about the other superpowers?
Russia and China still maintain a significant nuclear presence. Complete nuclear disarmament is an impossibility. To maintain our own policy of deterrence, we need a weapon of overwhelming power.
The plot setup all hinges on the fact that the US government decided to develop a stealth nuke for Metal Gear to give the US a distinct nuclear advantage.
It's the ultimate weapon. And from a political point of view, it avoids the problem of nuclear reduction and nuclear inspections. Colonel, is this true? Are you listening?
I'm listening.
If word of this got out, it could delay the signing of the START III treaty and cause a huge international incident.
Yeah, it would be nasty. The United States would be denounced by the UN. It could even bring the president down.
Did you know this, Colonel?
I'm sorry.
And they will do just about anything to prevent that information from getting out because of how damaging it would be. From lying to Snake.
But what is this place? I don't think it's just a nuclear weapons disposal facility.
Boy, oh boy, it's just like them. Nobody told you anything, did they? Okay, you see, this place isn't really for disposing nuclear weapons. This base is owned and operated by a dummy corporation of Armstech.
This is a civilian base?
Right, for the development of Metal Gear.
Colonel.
Otacon.
What's Metal Gear really designed for?
It's a mobile TMD. It's designed to shoot down nuclear missiles. Only for defensive purposes, of course.
Liar! I already know that Metal Gear is nothing but a nuclear-equipped walking deathmobile.
Nuclear? What are you talking about?
Using Fox Die.
Stopping the nuclear launch, rescuing the hostages. It was all just a diversion.
A diversion?
The Pentagon only needed for you to come into contact with us. That's what killed the Armstech president and decoy Octopus.
You don't mean...
That's right. You were sent here to kill us so they could retrieve Metal Gear undamaged, along with the bodies of the Genome soldiers. From the beginning, the Pentagon was just using you as a vector to spread Fox Die.
Even attempting to nuke the whole island is on the table.
How do you plan on explaining a nuclear attack on Alaska to the media?
Don't worry. We've prepared a convincing cover story. We'll simply say that the terrorists exploded a nuclear device.
If it weren't for the warhead, Foxhound probably wouldn't have even hijacked Metal Gear because it wouldn't have put them in such a unique position.
If we nuke a major population center, the game's over. But a nuclear explosion at a test site can still be concealed from the public. Meanwhile, Washington will be worried about the retaliatory strike from China.
That'll probably mean top-secret talks between both countries' leaders.
Of course. And in the process, the president will be forced to divulge the existence of a new and highly destabilizing nuclear weapon to the Chinese. What do you think that will do to the US's reputation? Or the president's?
And with the CTBT, that means that China and India. I see.
Yes. When the other countries hear about this new weapon, they'll all want to contact us. Washington won't be very happy when we start selling their own system to the highest bidders. Yes, the president will break. He will give in to our demands.
I think it's important to note that in most games in the series, the US developing or spreading nuclear weapons serves as the catalyst for setting the plot in motion. In Metal Gear Solid 1, it's the development of the warhead for Rex that leads Foxhound to hijack it. In Metal Gear Solid 2, it's Arsenal gear that Solidus and Dead Cell hijack. In Metal Gear Solid 3, it's the fact that the boss gave Volgin a Davy Crockett. In Peace Walker, it's the CIA bringing nukes to Costa Rica. And in Metal Gear Solid 5, XOF is able to take down Mother Base through the ruse of a nuclear inspection because they salvaged a nuke from Peace Walker. Through both Otacon and Mei Ling in particular, Metal Gear Solid 1 really argues against scientists developing tools of war.
You're right. We have to take responsibility. Science has always thrived on war. Greatest weapons of mass destruction were created by scientists who wanted to be famous. But that's all over now. I won't take part in murder anymore.
I wanted to do applied physics, not just theoretical stuff. I wanted to make things for people. The Soliton radar system or the Codex system. I just wanted to make something that would be useful for people. I think that it was the same for Dr. Emmerich too. But he was used like a tool, used to make a horrible killing machine. Maybe it would be better if engineers like us just stopped making things. I don't know.
It's ironic given Kojima's own themes, but he really is a product of his time and place. His anti-war, anti-nuke, and anti-government censorship themes really are distinctly Japanese. Western games just don't tend to touch on these issues. At the end of the game, a few lines of text remind the audience that although the number of nuclear weapons in the world is decreasing, it's still a considerable number. As of November of 2018, it sits at roughly 14,500.